Welcome back everybody to ClubImport and to the very first episode of Plugged In, where we share our thoughts on new models and follow up on your favorite builds as they continue to build. Today's episode is going to be about the 2022 Infiniti Qx55, which was just recently released, and we thought that it would be a great idea for us to give you our thoughts on the vehicle, whether it's design, drive, and everything that goes behind the vehicle to create such a beautiful car. So we're going to talk a little bit about as to why the Qx55 does not replace the FX or the QX models. Now, in my personal opinion, the car does somewhat look similar to the FX and the QX70 because of the hatchback or the coupe-like look. However, I'll give you my personal opinions as to why I don't believe Infiniti replaced the QX model or the FX model. And I believe that in the future, the FX or the QX70 model will come back in a different form and a better looking form, in my personal opinion. Now, the QX55 does come with a 268 horsepower and 280 pounds of torque. Now, a lot of you will argue with me, well, it has a 4-cylinder turbo and a CVT transmission. Now, I'll tell you why I think that's a perfect fit just for this vehicle. Reason being is, again, I personally don't believe it replaces the FX or the QX. So let's keep an open mind about this and let's look at this model overall as a totally different vehicle, because I believe that Infiniti in the long run is going to change things up just like they did with the QX60. Now, this one does come with an all-wheel drive standard and 20-inch wheels, which does make the car look really good. Now, this exact vehicle right here is the Sensory model. It does have the overhead display and a lot of the safety features which a lot of people look to for nowadays. And I will tell you, the drive, as I'll go through in the video, is a lot more comfortable than most vehicles out there, comparing it to other brands, which we will not get too much into because I have seen a lot of reviews out there that compare it to other brands. But I'm going to talk about it as a whole vehicle, and again, my thoughts on it and my ideas as to what I think will hold for this vehicle in the future. It does have a lot of more different design, especially in the back, which we'll also showcase in the video as well. Now, keep in mind that this vehicle was created off the QX50. However, I don't think that it looks anything like the QX50 because of the design itself. The contrast with the vehicle from the black, the grille, and the wheels itself do set it off a little bit different versus two other models as far as the QX50 goes. The QX50 did have the Edition 30 model, which was the 30th anniversary or the appearance package. Now, I don't think that this vehicle looks anything like it as far as the packaging goes or the design. Now, comparing it to the other models as far as the Q50, Q60, and the QX50 goes, where they did have the CarPlay, this one does come with wireless Android Auto and wireless CarPlay, which is a feature that everybody was looking for. And it actually had me a little bit excited because I personally don't care much about the CarPlay or Android Auto. However, I think that with the wireless CarPlay, a lot of people will look towards this vehicle a little bit more than the QX50 or the Q50 or Q60. Not that it's in the same segment. However, I do think that the wireless CarPlay and Android Auto does give it a little bit more pep, as you could say. Now, the differences between the QX50 and the QX55 is right off the bat the road feel. The road feel on the QX50, you get to feel it all around, whether it's through the gas pedal or the brake pedal or the steering wheel. However, on the QX55, I can tell you virtually there is no road feel from the steering wheel. However, you do get the road feel from the gas pedal or the brake pedal. Now, a lot of the differences as far as the suspension goes, the QX55 does feel a lot more sturdy versus to the QX50. I think the reason being is the suspension is a little bit more refined because of the fact that this is more of a coupe-like vehicle, and it does feel a lot more sporty versus to the QX50. Now this car, like I said, does remind me somewhat of the QX70 or the FX models. Reason being is because of the style of the vehicle itself, and of course the headroom in the rear. Now, me being 6'5", I will tell you I do have a little bit of headspace. Not that I've ever really cared about headspace in the past, whether it's the Q60 that I drive personally right now, or whether it was my FX35 that I had in the past, because the seating positions itself does give you a lot more room to move around and get yourself a little bit more comfortable. Now, I will say that a lot of the features in this vehicle, especially with the Pro Pilot Assist, since it is the Sensory model, do add a lot of safety features, whether it's lane departure warning or prevention, or of course the heads-up display. One of the favorite aspects of this vehicle for me is the heads-up display. Now, my wife had a QX50 with the Sensory package, and it had the heads-up display, and I will tell you, it does save you a lot more hassle versus to looking down, especially since you get your speed, you get your traffic, whether if you have the navigation set up to a location, you'll get turn-by-turn directions in the heads-up display. Now, I will tell you that the heads-up display is actually positioned in a better place versus to some of the other vehicles that are in the market. Now, this vehicle does have a lot of the safety features since it is the Sensory model, especially with the Pro Pilot Assist and the steering assist. It does save you a lot of hassle, especially in the traffic. You can just let go of the steering wheel for a few seconds and it'll actually keep you in your lane versus to drifting away. And it also does help with fatigue a lot as well, especially if you have a long drive ahead of you. And I've seen a lot in the future where you know, a lot of the vehicles do have a lot more safety features, just like the QX55, but you would have to build up the vehicle to upwards of 70,000 or more. And this one right here is roughly around 59.9. It is, again, the all-wheel drive Sensory. It does give you a lot more for your buck versus to other models. Now, another one of the comparisons that I saw somebody else do on this car is comparing the infotainment system to the Audi MMI system. I don't think that the Audi MMI system can be compared to this, especially because it does have a lot of flaws and it is so outdated, where the other person actually called Infiniti infotainment system outdated. But as somebody that's had an A6 in the past, I will tell you that our infotainment system in the QX55 is actually a lot better than the Audis, just because of the fact that you know, a lot of things are not touch control or as much of, you know, voice control. Majority of it is with a dial, of course, but that's not a bad thing either. However, I would personally not compare it to the Audi. Comparing it to other models, I will say that there are some better infotainment systems out there. However, I believe that the Infiniti one is a lot better versus to the Audi MMI. Now, the grille does look a lot more like the FX grille than anything else on this vehicle. Yeah, the slope of the vehicle does resemble the FX and the QX models as well. However, I think that the grille is the most significant part on this vehicle that does resemble the FX35 or the QX70 models or the FX50. However, that, you know, the design overall, especially the trunk or the hatch, as people may call it, or the front, is a lot more different and lower to the ground versus to the QX70 or the FX35. Now, the steering and turning radius is great, but however, do keep in mind that this is an all-wheel drive model. It does have a little bit of less of a turning radius versus to the front-wheel drive or the rear-wheel drive models go, as far as Infiniti or any other brand. Now, the QX55 does start right around $47,800, $48,000, and the highest model, I believe, which this is one of them, again, is $59,900, and they are all-wheel drive standard. And again, it does come standard with the 20-inch wheels, which I think does give the vehicle a more aggressive look versus to having the older wheels where they were 18-inch. It would just make the vehicle oversized, in my opinion. However, I think that with the 20-inch wheels, it does offset it a lot and it looks a lot better. Now, Infiniti has kept the dual screen touch system as far as the infotainment system goes, and of course you have the center screen where it does give you some additional information. And again, this model being sensory gives you the overhead display, which also gives you some information. And the best part about the vehicle, I believe, as far as the infotainment system goes, it's touchscreen. You can use the dial if you like, or voice recognition. And if you have the CarPlay connected, you can always use Siri, which I think is a lot better and easier to use versus to some of the other models that are out there as far as different brands go. Now, with the sensory package, you do get the Monaco red seats with the two-tone, with the black accents and the red seats. I think it does offset the contrast very nicely, especially with the black headliner. And overall, it does give the vehicle a better look. I will, however, again emphasize that I believe that Infiniti is going to be changing a lot of things up, especially given the fact that they recently went away from this conventional CVT transmission on the QX60 to a more traditional transmission. And of course, they reverted back to the rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. I think that, you know, in the future that this vehicle will receive some kind of an update, hopefully. Again, my personal opinion, bringing it back to rear-wheel drive and hopefully a bigger engine. Now, I could personally see a 3.0 engine in here, or even a 3.0 Red Sport engine, giving it the 400 horsepower, especially since what they did with the FX35 or the FX50 or the FX35, FX45, giving it that V8 and a lot more power. Now, there is a lot of things to be discussed about this vehicle, but I don't want to keep this video too long, especially knowing that I'm going to be driving it for a while, and I'm going to revisit it in the future and let you guys know exactly what my thoughts are on it. So keep an eye out on the update video. Let me know what your thoughts are on this, and let me know if you're actually considering getting one. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. And again, if you're new to the channel, I hope that you subscribe and like this video and share it with your friends and family. Thank you guys, and have a good one.